Alright, so I've been out here measuring and remeasuring and measuring and remeasuring, and got a lot of good advice yesterday from the people that I love the most, and you guys know who you are. I have a small group of people that keep in contact with me and give me lots of ideas, and their input is invaluable, and they do it just like I do. You know what I mean? They do it as their hobby, and so they're passionate about it, and so they're honest in trying to help and give good constructive criticism, and it's so helpful. I mean, it's so helpful, so I appreciate that. So what I've done here, most of the morning I spent measuring this to the inside of certain places and forward to back. This brace is in fact in this way that much too much. So, and you can see where they spliced it. Okay, so this is pretty much a non-issue for me because this is going away, but I still have to make the outside here of this panel come out to meet the inside of this, because that panel will be sandwiched in between my new mini tub and this. So, and there is room to actually do that, because the way they did what they did, you can see how they hacked it up in there. We've already kind of talked about this, but that whole piece needs to come out, and from the measurements it needs to come out at least a ½ inch, and so that's probably about what that is, maybe an inch, but I wrote the measurements in there. But when that comes out up to the front of the door there, where the inside here meets this panel, was about an 1/8 of an inch back too far this way. So literally when this panel comes out like it's supposed to, it'll actually move that a little bit forward and make that be like it's supposed to be according to the other side, which I'm very confident the other side is right and hasn't been hit. So now to where we are here. You can see here my door gaps look good. One thing that Double R said, he said you might want to try moving this down. Well, I think that's going to fix it. Right now I'm not 100% sure till I put the quarter panel back on it, but we'll see. But you can see where I drew a line here. That's where the rocker was, and I moved it down that much. Okay, when I moved it down like that, this was in here. It relaxed and let that pop out and give this a consistent, even gap. So this would actually, and you can see here the doors like it's supposed to be. So I went over and measured from this hole here to this, which is all bent up, but it's 5 inches or thereabout. Well, that's where this is now. So this is where it's supposed to be now. So, and then dropping it, I think that's going to do the trick on this. Now, I'll tell you, because you'll be like, I'm sure some people would be like, yeah, what a dumbass. I mean, you know what I mean? That's a no-brainer. Well, yes and no. Before, when I had this where it needed to be, you see all this overlap here? It was even with the pinch weld. So, and you can see that as it goes down, it's even, and then it gets, where I dropped it, it dropped way down. So that's what I had done, is push this up to where it was fairly flush with these pinch welds, and I figured it'd be, within a little bit. You can see how this is dropped below a little bit. Actually, that tab goes on the outside of that. I'm looking now. No, it doesn't. Never mind. Disregard. So anyway, so yeah, I redid this. And somebody's calling me, probably my daughter. So yeah, to make this long story longer, I'm going to go ahead and put this quarter panel back on and get it all refitted up and see if that fixed the issue that I was having. if everything fits like it's supposed to, then I'm going to scribe everything up, make my new marks where things need to be, pop holes if I need to keep this, because I got to take all this back off, prep the insides, epoxy the inside, everything else. Another thought that I'm having, and let me stop for a second on this, because I know this is boring to some people. And while I'm making my videos for everyone to watch, if you want to, if you find this boring, because I do get some thumbs down, if you find this boring, don't watch. It's as simple as that. I literally am making this video for the handful of people that are really honestly interested. They may have their own Camaro project, or they may just like me as a person, or whatever the reasoning is for watching me. That's why those are the people that I'm making the videos for. So, if you're thumbs down on me, move on. You're not hurting my feelings. I don't care. The guys that I do care about, I know are not giving me thumbs downs. So I'll just leave it at that. So anyway, so that's what we've got. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring the car back down. And pretty happy with the progress. I know it doesn't seem like much, but I think Double R has got the solution for me. And I think what I'm going to do, if this does work this way, I'll try to keep this set like it is. And then once I get this done, I may weld this panel in here to where it's sturdy, and then push this up and try to flex it in to get that up, to get this lined up a little bit more. But getting this gap was crucial, because it was making everything else not fit. So we'll give this a shot. Hopefully that's the case. That's what happened. So appreciate you guys watching. See ya. All right, there it is. And Russ, you're the man. Actually, I think another guy just said, hey, why don't you do the same thing? So, but you were the first man to try that. So with that in like that, and it could push in just a tad more, but it will. This is set. Needs going a little bit more. My door gaps look amazing, except for down at the very bottom, but again, it needs to be pulled in and stretched around a little bit. This is almost right, but if I squeeze that in a little bit, it comes out right. This is, man, I bet that's close to 3/16 gap, so that's really nice. The rest of this is all fitting like it was yesterday. And so my door gaps at the bottom, maybe a little bit big, but really not too bad. This gap here is lining up pretty nicely. Like I said, this gap and this gap look good. Let me break this. I pull my door shut with this because I don't have a striker now. Pop this loose here. And so yeah, this is fitting like it's supposed to. When I push this in, it wants to flex up a little bit, but that's no big deal. So I think that's the fix. Well, as a matter of fact, I know that's the fix. So that's going to come in and come down a little bit. So yeah, perfect. So yeah, I appreciate that. And I know that seems so simple, but like I said, underneath, I was trying to get it pushed up in there as good as I could, get everything lined up where it looked right underneath, and it was just up a little bit too high. So awesome. All right, so where do we go from here? This is kind of uncharted territory. When I did Daryl's car hadn't been wrecked. So keep that in mind, that this car has been blasted all the way down the side. So it's taken extra time for me to try to make sure I double check measurements and figure out where everything's supposed to go. The other side won't be near as bad, I'm sure, because it's not been hit. So This, I'm literally almost having to start from scratch and say, okay, where did the factory intend for this panel to be? Where did they want the inner panel to be? You know, this panel here, where was this supposed to be? As you can see here, this gap is huge. Well, it can't be. It can't be that huge. It's got to be, I've got it marked, but it'll be the same size as that, because otherwise your window will sit and rattle, or, you know, it won't roll up right or whatever. So it's got to be right. So yeah, I've got to cut this out, replace it, and all that. So basically where I'm at now is thinking, what's my next move? So now that I've got the door lined up like I think it should be, I'm really confident that the rocker is right. I think that's what I'm going to do, is bust this apart, clean everything down to shiny metal, get all the rust and any other crap out of it, clean it really well, mix up some epoxy, scuff the inside of this rocker, not the outside, just the inside, and epoxy the inside and all the inside of the frame and all of that stuff, to where I can go ahead and finalize welding this rocker into place. Because now that I know it's where it needs to be, I'm going to go ahead and mark and get it to where I can put it right back where it is. So that's what I'll probably be doing over the next few days, is just cleaning and getting ready for epoxy. So once I get all that done, I'll weld this rocker in and I'll be done with that. Then I'm gonna consider, here's, so like I said, I'm kind of new territory for me, because this car's been wrecked, and so it's a little different animal. We know we've got this gap here. We know this has to come out to here. Another thing we know is I've got a whole new panel for here. And that we know that this is going to be mini tubbed. Okay, another thing we know is these have to be replaced. I've got those right there. Okay, so where do you say, okay, I have all this off, I'll go ahead and mini tub it, I'll go ahead and pull my frame rails off, because I have to put the new frame rails on before I mini tub it. So you see where I'm saying? There's steps, and I'm trying to figure out what's the next best step that's not going to, you know, if I went ahead and locked all this down, we'll be fine. Now I'm going to have to cut all this out. While this is off, I ought to go ahead and mini tub this, because now I've got access, you know, to everything. So it just makes sense for me to mini tub it. Well, I can't mini tub it until I do the frame rails. Well, that's a major part of, you know, what's keeping this car together. So I've got to pull it up off the jig. I've got to cut those out. Then I've got to put the new ones in, weld them in, and then, you know, I got to do the floorboard at some point. So I'm not sure if I'm not going to take the advice I think Kevin Barb Cito gave me. Do your rockers first, because everything goes off your rockers. Well, you know, you start off your rockers, you set your doors up, you set your quarters off of that, on and on. So if I do both the rockers, get them all done, then the stability of the car front to back should be, because this is a pretty big player in all that. Then I can start pulling both quarters, all that stuff, because everything else should stay pretty stable. Now that I've got that welded in, that keeps the front end stable. I've got all that sitting in there. It can come back out, but it's just sitting in there for now. So I'm thinking about just moving away from that, just letting it sit there. Like I said, I've got it bolted in. It's bolted down here. It's also bolted here. It's not going anywhere. So I can just leave this alone and come back to it. So I may go ahead and do both the rockers. We can cut that quarter panel off as well, so I can get in there and do all that. But at some point I've got to do the frame rails. So, you know, I'm thinking, do I go ahead and cut, because I got to do the floor pan too, so do I go ahead and cut the floor pan out of it, break all the spot wheels loose off the frame rails, take the floor pan out, and then set the new floor pan in, or go ahead and cut the frame rails out first, get them mocked up underneath it, then cut the floor out, then set the new floor in. You see what I'm saying? So I'm trying to kind of play this out as to what's the best move to take next, because there's certain things that have to happen, and those frame rails are pretty big. They're pretty important that I get those just right, which, taking those frame rails off too, I'm going to have to take this lower panel off to get to the back side of it, because those frame rails are welded to, I think they're welded up. Let me look. Yeah, they're welded right there, so I could probably get to those spot welds from in here and break those loose, so that shouldn't be a big deal. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I might be able to get it now. This will be pretty tough, but these frame rails are trash, so it doesn't matter if I screw those up or hack those off or whatever, but eventually I will have to take this panel off anyway and get to the other side, so I may go ahead and cut that off and get them from the other side. But yeah, I'm just thinking out loud at this point. I tend to do that quite a bit. It just helps me to walk through what I need to do next. But so in order to change the frame rails, I was going to say, I have to lift it by the quarters. It has to be lifted by where it was before, and then underneath the quarter here. So the body will have to come up and be supported by the quarters. Well, I need to get that quarter planted for sure, and either do this one or not, and then pick the body up and do the frame rails, because I got to have those set on the pins to make sure they're right. So this video is going to be like 2 hours long. So that's pretty much where I'm at with things today. Again, I appreciate all you guys' comments and suggestions and things like that. And Russ, man, I really appreciate you, bud. I mean, I know that seems like that was a no-brainer, but like I explained before, when I got underneath there, that thing's hanging way down. But I'm thinking now, if I lock this down up top to where it can't move, and then push that up, if I have to use, a jack or something with a block, push it up to where this actually comes up and bends in where it needs to be, I think that might work. The way I had it before, I was trusting in the bottom being the part that needed to be right, and that's obviously was throwing off my quarter here. So good deal. So we'll talk to you guys later.